Hello, so you can read the book of the Lord. Now, if you're watching this, and if you're a Muslim, or if you believe in Quran alone, or if you believe in Quran, if you believe that terrorism is good or killing people is good, consider this video. That this book is a good book. It has a potential. But those people who kill, those people who suicide with a bomb, those people who kill terrorists, killing for just for war, just for starting starting war. Consider this, that Quran is not a book for that. Quran has its potential, but Quran, I admit that this book has a dangerous teachings because of the dangerous interpretation of many Muslims. I'm not a Muslim, but I want you to consider this video. Let's read first the 33 verse 53 of the book of Quran in in Al-Hazab 33 verse 53. Believers, do not enter the houses of the Prophet unless you are invited for a meal. Do not linger until a meal is ready. When you are invited, enter. When you have taken your meal, depart. Do not stay on indulging in conversation. Doing that causes annoyance to the Prophet, though he is too reticent to tell you so, but God is not reticent with the truth. When you ask the wives of the Prophet for anything, ask them from behind a curtain. That will be purer for your hearts as well as their hearts. It is not right for you to cause annoyance to the Prophet of God, or for you ever to marry his wives after him. Indeed, that would be an enormity in the sight of God. So this passage is telling the believers about do not enter the houses of the Prophet unless you are invited for a meal. This is my question. Where is your Prophet in our time? There is no such thing that Prophet Muhammad is existing until now. So this verse should be interpreted as a history verse. This verse is for history, it's a part of history, but this verse could not be happen in our time because Prophet Muhammad is dead. Okay? Believers, do not enter the houses of the Prophet. Where is the house of the Prophet? Where is Prophet Muhammad? Right? It caused also annoyance to the prophets. How Prophet Muhammad, who are dead, can be annoyed for such things? Muhammad is not alive yet, or in our time. So this verse is the time when Muhammad are alive. So this verse are historical book, historical passage about Prophet Muhammad. And also in 49 verse 2, it's also an historical passage about Prophet Muhammad. Believers, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet, and do not speak as loudly when speaking to him as you do when speaking to one another, lest your actions come as to nothing without your realizing it. Believers, do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet. Where is your Prophet, guys? Where is your Prophet? There is no Prophet in our time. There's no Prophet Muhammad in our time. Okay? So this is a historical book. This is a historical verse about Prophet Muhammad being respected by the believers. Do not raise your voice above the voice of the prophets. But this verse could be applied spiritually and morally in our time. For example, your teacher. Believers, do not raise your voices above the voice of your teacher, because it's good to respect your teacher, right? So that is the moral lesson of that verse. But that verse, if you literally believe that don't raise your voice above the voice of the prophet, that's not the thing, because the prophet Muhammad is not yet, is not alive. It's dead, right? That's the fact. And also, let's go back to 33 verse 53, that believers do not enter the houses of the prophet. It could be interpreted as well that don't go to the house of your spiritual leader, of your pastor, of your rabbi, of your imam, of your sheikh, of your ustad, of your rabbi, of your boss, or of your teacher, unless you are invited for a meal. So this passage has a spiritual and moral meaning that you can apply in 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 our time, right? In present world. But you can talk with your prophet. You can go to the house of your prophet because your prophet is dead, right? And your prophet can be annoyed, right? That's the fact that this verse is not is not literal thing that you should talk to your prophet that was dead. It's very ridiculous, right? But you can use the moral lesson of that verse. That's why this is the message of this video. In 9 verse 5, it says this: when the forbidden months have passed, kill the polytheists who are at war with you wherever you find them. Take them captive and besiege them and lie in wait for them at every place of ambush. But if they repent and take to prayer regularly and pay the alms, then let them go their way. God is forgiving and merciful. Now, I put some verses, 49 verse 2 and 33:53. Why? Because I believe this is history. I believe this should not this should not be practiced in our time in literal sense, because there is no persecution in Muslims. Muslims are not persecuted. But Muslims in our time, sad to say, persecuting Christians, Jews, persecuting unbelievers who are at the Quran says who are at war with you. Kill the polytheists. Ambush. It's very sad to say that if you take this as in literal sense to kill people, Quran is very clear that I believe and I think this is more closer to the truth, that this is part of a history. Because if Muslims in ancient times, in the first era of Muslims, in first generation Muslims, if they are killed by the polytheists, Muslims will be locked in number. Okay? The Muslims will be extinct in number. But in our time, there's 1.6 billion Muslims who don't need to kill. Because that is just part of the what? History. But you can have a moral lesson in this verse. But don't do this. Don't kill polytheists. Don't kill in our time. Because this is just an history like 49:2 and 33:53. Let's read. Let's read this verse. It's very important to know this because some Muslims killed 29:46. This is how Muslims should fight. Not of 29:43. Let's read 46. Believers argue only in the best way with the people of the book. Argue only in the best way with the people of the book, but contend not at all with such of them as are unjust. Say, we believe in what has been revealed to us and what has been revealed to you. Our God and your God are one, and to Him we submit. Argue only the best way with the people of the book. So this is the verse that we can apply in our time, in literal sense actually, right? Because our time is not a time for war. Our time is a teachings of of good love and peace. Don't teach some sort of things, killing, terrorism. Those people who are against terrorism, please talk to those ISIS, talk to those your brethren in faith, your fellow Muslim who are at war, who are believing in jihad is a holy war or such thing like that. I'm a believer of Quran before, but I stopped because of the Muslims. And as a matter of fact, I don't look upon Muslims because Muslims might be imperfect, but the Islam is might be perfect, but Islam teachings is very dangerous. 9:5. If you did not interpret that in that way that I interpreted in myself now, it could be dangerous, brothers and sisters. Right? It could be dangerous. And also in 43, 4, chapter 4, verse 34, this is also a dangerous verse. Men are protectors of women because God has made some of them excel others and because they spend their wealth on them. So virtuous women are obedient and guarding the husband's absence what God would have them guard. As for those from whom you apprehend infidelity, admonish them and then refuse to share their beds and finally hit them lightly. Then if they obey you, take no further action against them, for God is high, great. So, if you didn't interpret this verse might be dangerous because hit your wife. I have watched some videos of Muslim guy who hit their wives. That is very dangerous because of the misinterpretation of this verse. I believe this verse means warning. Hit them means warning. Why? Because as for those from whom you apprehend infidelity, admonish them, then refuse to share their beds, and finally hit them. Hit them of what? Hit them because they didn't obey you. But don't hit them just because the Quran says that hit them in literal sense. No, hit means warning them. Then if they obey you because you warning them of hitting them in a spiritual sense, take no further action against them, for God is high, great. That is the meaning of that. So Muslims who believe that should be in literal sense that hit them or beat your wives, that is false. That is false. And also in 4 verse 3 about polygamy, if you fear that you cannot deal fairly with orphans girls, you may marry woman of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you might not be able to treat them with equal fairness, then only one, or from among those from whom you rightfully possess, that is more like to keep you from committing an injustice. So those people who want to be a Muslim just to 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 try the polygamy or to try to have many wives, don't. So you can't commit injustice. That's that's the that's the goodness, that's the potential of your book, but you don't see it. Okay? And your book is a good book though. I love your book. I like it. I believe that there's one God. I believe Jesus is a prophet. But you don't see the greatness of your book, that your book is a good book. Okay? And also in Hajj, I don't think that Hajj is very mandatory. How about those people who are not afford the ticket of Saudi Arabia? Hajj, 396, source of guidance. Okay? Place of worship, Becca, source of guidance. That's true. Okay? But 1689, 2216, Quran is a guidance. Quran is a guide. Conclusion, we don't need to go to Becca for guidance because the Quran is our guidance. What is the purpose of Hajj or pilgrimage? To go to Becca for source of guidance. Quran is from Becca. Muhammad is from Becca. So, Quran also speaks that Quran is a guidance. Conclusion, you don't need to go to Hajj because Hajj is the purpose of Hajj, is the source of guidance. And and Quran is a guidance. So you don't need to go to Becca to have a guidance because you have a guidance here. Right? You have a guidance here already. And also in 936 or 936, on the day God created heaven and the earth, He decreed that the number of months should be 12 in number. Out of these four are sacred. That is the true religion. What is the four sacred months? Do not wrong your souls in months. Fight the polytheists altogether as they fight you altogether. Again, this is a history. And know that God is with the righteous. We can we can interpret fight as debating or arguing as we read in 2946. But let's read this four sacred months. Muslims who believe that four sacred months are from hadith. This is my question. Four sacred months are including Ramadan is included in four sacred months. How do I say this? Because if Ramadan is not part of four sacred months, so if Ramadan is a sacred month, it means four sacred months plus one sacred month Ramadan, it means five sacred months. No. Four sacred months are also, four sacred months are not the Jubilee. As Quran Knight Samjeran says, I disagree. Because I've been studying this for a long time. This is the four sacred months in Quranic explanation. Ramadan, the month when Quran was revealed. 2194-197, appointed months for Hajj, all the pilgrimage. Ramadan, Shawwal, Dhul Al-Qada, Dhul Al-Hijjah. 9, 10, 11, 12. Some fasting, Ramadan, Hajj pilgrimage. Also, you can fast in that month. No sin, peaceful, do good deeds, and fast in these months. 9:76:37, 2:17, 5 verse 2, four sacred months. Then that is the fact, that is the truth. That is the four sacred months. So, because if Ramadan is a sacred month and four sacred months is those four sacred months is not Ramadan, or Ramadan is not part of those four sacred months. So if Ramadan is sacred month, so there's a five sacred months. Your Quran says four sacred months only. That's why if you're Muslim, it's better to be a Quranite, or it's better to be Quran only, or Quran based, or base your belief in Quran. I respect Muslims because they believe in one God and one only. They worship God and don't believe in idolatry. I respect them and I love their teachings. But I want you to open your eyes, guys, that your Quran has a potential. Okay? Your Quran is a good book. Your Quran might be true, but it's a dangerous truth if you don't agree with what I'm saying right now. I hope you're I hope you open your eyes and mind and heart. And I'm just concerned of your religion. Submission to God is your true religion. And you are submitted. Okay? Don't force Muslims to speak Arabic. Let them speak of what they want to say. to speak. This book is a good book. I've read this for a long, long time. But I teach now Bible because it's more on spiritual things and it's not very dangerous book though. But this is a dangerous truth. But if you agree of what I'm saying, we can agree in one another. So thank you for watching and assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you, and the truth will set you free.